Good morning. I'm glad to see that many after the party last night. Just to make sure that you're all in the right room, we don't serve coffee in here. And this is the Managing Windows 10 Using Configuration Manager Current Branch session. My name is Kent Agerlund, work for Cortec Global, live and is born in Copenhagen. My Twitter feed is Agerlund. Been working with this version here of Configuration Manager for about a year. I'll think the technical previews and so on and so forth. The version that I'm going to use in this environment is going to be the latest public production build. Remember, those of you who have been playing around, you have a technical preview version that is out, which is 16.01, and then you have the production build, which is 15.11. And I'm using the production build, which is 15.11. There are a few changes in 16.01 when it comes to Windows 10 features. Maybe we can touch on those later, but they're not like, they're not major changes. It's more like, nice to have features. When we talk management, then it all begins, in my opinion, with identity. Now this is very early in the morning, so let me just by raise of hand see how many of you have an Active Directory on premise. Should be like everyone. Yeah, so those of you who didn't raise your hands, you're still asleep, which is cool. We all have Active Directory, right? We have had this for years. We have had our domain joined and our workgroup joined machines forever. And we will still have that for quite a while. I'm pretty sure about that. Azure Active Directory, there's been some sessions about that. I had a couple of sessions yesterday on EMS. Azure Active Directory, in my opinion, is not going to replace Active Directory anytime soon. If it will in the future, I have no idea. My guesses are as good as you, but you need to have Azure Active Directory because you need to have a cloud identity. When we talk Azure Active Directory, you'll be working with Azure AD Joins. So there might be some machines, for whatever reason, you do not want to join to your real domain or your on-prem domain. That process is kind of easy. I'll just do a very quick demo on that because the focus on this session here is config manager. Then when it comes to management, group policies been here for years. They're still a mess. They have been a mess since the mid-90s or something like that. When I say they are a mess, it's because often you have hundreds and hundreds, none of you don't have, but the other ones in the other rooms have hundreds and hundreds of group policies. And when we change something over here, all of a sudden, these machines, they start rebooting or they get patches or something like that. It is often like that. We do have group policies for Windows 10. We also have some new GPOs that you can go ahead and implement and play around with. For Config Manager, we have a couple of options here. You can still have a domain join machine, of course, and then install the Configuration Manager client agent on that one. That's how, most of you in the room are doing this. But you also have on-premise MDM now. With on-premise MDM, there are a few requirements to your infrastructure. We'll get to those. And there are also a few requirements, or there are a lot of requirements to your operating system that you're going to enroll. As a matter of fact, it's only supported by Windows 10. So if you have let's say that you're Macy's and you have 45,000 machines out there in all the different department stores, maybe the only thing you really want to do is just enroll them and manage them, and what you want to manage can be managed by the MDM or through the MDM agent. So you might just want to, control the updates. You want to lock the machine down. You want to control the Defender settings. So for you, there is no reason, or in that scenario, there wouldn't be any reason for you to have a traditional SCCM agent on that one, because we all know when we have a traditional SCCM agent, we have a lot of, not a lot, but we do have some troubleshooting, right? Sometimes agents are unhealthy and so on and so forth. So this would just make your life a little easier. I don't see you enrolling all of your Windows 10 machines as on-premise MDM machines, not at all. So this is, again, just like Azure AD, it's just another thing that we can do. So we now have 3 different ways of managing our Windows 10 environment. I'll give you a demo of this one here. Then, of course, we have MDM that we talked about, those of you who attended the session yesterday that we talked about. And we have Exchange Active Sync, and we have the ownership. So all of this you need to put into one big pot, and then you need to figure out how you're going to deal, what are you going to do with the ownership? Is it all going to be, corporate-owned machine? Do we have some privately owned or personally owned machines? Are you going to have different security policies all based on that? And how are you going to configure your identity? That is kind of interesting. The management choices that we have, as I mentioned, we have GPOs. They still work, but I'm like, seriously? It's not that I don't understand them, I just don't want to play around, touch them at all. Then we have the Intune agent, and this is not public statement from Microsoft. It's me saying, the Intune agent, that's kind of a dead end. You don't want to do that, and I'm not saying enrolling into Intune. That's not what I'm saying, but those of you who have been playing around with this, you can download and install an agent. You don't want to do that. A lot of the new management settings that we get cannot be controlled by the Intune agent. It can still be controlled by Intune and the built-in MDM agent, but you do not want to install the Intune agent. Then we have MDM, and the built-in MDM agent, that's where you want to be. That's where you want to be if you want to have some kind of control of the machine, or of course if you want to be the sheriff in town, you still want to do your config manager client, because with your config manager client you get all of the options. If I have an MDM enrolled machine, I do not have WMI hardware inventory the same way you have when you have a config manager client. I do not have the same way of configuring my hardware inventory policies and so on and so forth. So that's why I'm saying we can refer to this one here as light management. It's not the correct term. And we can refer to this one here as, fat management. And that, again, is not a correct term. The Windows 10 MDM agent, it's built in. Once you're done today, I know it's Friday, so you probably will just go home and relax for an hour. But once you have relaxed for that hour, you should go in and check this blog post. I have a link here. It's going to explain what OMA DM is all about. OMA DM is the way, or the protocol that we use to manage the MDM agent. And if you have not played around with that, I'm going to give you a couple of demos on this one here. See here, I think I had it in here because I was smart in the beginning, so I found all the blog posts that I'm going to talk about. But this blog post here is going to explain what OMA DM is all about. It's going to explain how you can go in and configure your own settings, what values you have to configure. So if you just scroll down a little, let's just take this one here. So here you can see I have something called Browser Allowed Password Manager. So it's going to tell me what is the name of the setting. This will make sense when I start my demo in a little while. It also tells me, so what values can you configure? And this is very much like configuring a group policy. But unlike a group policy, I can do this in Configuration Manager, or I can do it in Intune if I wanna. Meaning I can just have a collection, and a device can be a member of multiple collections. So this is much more dynamic compared to going in and creating group policies. A lot of these settings here, when you start working with them, can be configured as MDM settings and also as group policies. And in this blog post, you will have an explanation, especially around stuff like Defender and Windows Update. It will tell you, well, this is the group policy and this is the MDM setting that you can configure. So this one here is very, very useful. If I want to do, I told you, if the Azure AD Join. So just for those of you who have not seen that, and this will be like a very quick one. Let's see if I have my... Just get that. Just log into my Azure. It has cache credentials. I was logged in before, so it's not like I don't have a password. Just saying, since this is being recorded. So in here, in my domain, what I've done a couple of things. So I've went into configure, and I have allowed my users to go in and enroll their devices. I've also said that when they enroll their devices, here you go, all users can enroll their devices. And by the way, I want to make sure that Mia and Tim become local administrators on those devices. So they will be added to the local administrator group as part of the enrollment process. And I will also make sure that they that we will require multi-factor authentication. So what this looks like, if I go into one of my machines, I just spun up a Windows 10 machine like a couple of seconds ago. So this one is my Windows 10 out-of-the-box experience. I haven't really done anything. So I can connect to Windows. I'll just join my Azure AD. And when I do that, what it's going to do right now when I start punching in my information here, it's going to search for a domain, and it's going to look up the information in that domain and see if we actually support Azure AD Join and what settings we have and so on and so forth. So when I sign in here, that's all taking part in the background. And one thing you will notice is that over here, it found my domain, MDM Hybrid, and you can see I have my custom logo up here. And right now, it's because of the, trust me, you have to trust me in this one. It's,
Please press the pound key to finish your verification.
There you go.
Your sign-in was successfully verified. Goodbye.
Adios. So there you go, and now it will just enroll my device. Let's just cancel this one. It's going to ask for a PIN code, and as part of my enrollment, one of the things that I have configured in here in my Azure Active Directory, when I take a look at my applications, I have one application called Intune, and this application here, what it will do when I've configured this application is it will automatically, once it's enrolled into Azure AD, it will say, hey, I can see that you have to be managed by Intune, and then it's going to enroll it into Intune. So that will all happen automatically when I enroll my Azure AD there in the background. So having Intune and Azure AD play together and manage your Windows 10 devices, you don't have to do that much on the Azure AD part. You will probably have to do most of your work in Intune because you have to create all of your policies and rules and stuff like that. But this is literally the only thing I have to configure in here, which is kind of cool. But it's not config manager. I know that's what you're thinking. So my on-premise MDM Windows 10 management. In order for me to get my on-premise MDM management to work, I need a couple of things. I need a very good friend who knows everything there is to know about PKI. Okay? One of the things is that we need to be in secure mode. So you need to have your infrastructure, your config manager infrastructure has to be running in secure mode. Not the entire infrastructure, but the server that you're using for this. And the server that you're using for this would be your management point, your distribution point. It will be an enrollment point, an enrollment proxy point. And if you've been playing around with the Mac OS enrollments in 2012, that sounds very familiar because it's the exact same requirements. It's also the same certificates. So we need a web server certificate on our management point. And what I've done in my demo here is I've cheated a little because I'm lazy. So I just created the web server certificate that also has workstation or client what is it called? Client features in it. So I just created a single one. When I enroll my agent here, what I will get is I will get inventory information in. I can start creating settings, and that might be the one thing I want to do from the beginning. I want to control my Windows 10 box. So I'm going to control the Defender features. I'm going to control my Windows Update features and so on and so forth. I also want to deploy a couple of apps, of course. All of this requires that someone enrolls the device. Enrolling a device can be, for some, super easy. For others, typing in their email address and password can take a while. So what we can do is we can create a package. So you can go in and create an enrollment package. If you have Wicket installed as part of your ADK, that is a requirement. So under normal circumstances, when we install the ADK on our SCCM server, we just select the three options, WinPE and so on and so forth. Now you probably also want to select Wicket as you do your ADK installation. Let me just take a look at this. This is, by the way, as you can see, this is one of the questions that I've had is like, so the inventory information we get is somewhat limited. Can't we do anything about that? The easy answer is, yeah, install the SCCM agent. This is what you get, right? So you ask for light management, you get light management. So, in here, so what I've done in here is, in this environment, I have like 3 different environments. So you'll notice I have a couple of servers of roles that we normally wouldn't have. So I have an enrollment point and the enrollment proxy point. So the MDM agent is communicating using those two, and it's more or less exactly the same as when you have a Mac OS X if it's not managed by Intune. I have been in on my management point, and I have configured my management point here to be in secure mode. And I also allow mobile devices and Mac devices to use this management point. I have done the same for my distribution point. So you'll see here, I'm allowing my distribution point to use mobile devices. I'm allowing my mobile devices to use my distribution point, not the other way around. That would be kind of cool though, if we could just, use mobile devices all over as DPs. That would be interesting. Then the other thing I have, and this is important, I have an Intune subscription. So even though this is on-premise, you still need to have an Intune subscription. Well, when you have an Intune subscription, an interesting setting is that you can say, I only want to manage my devices on premises. Now see, in this environment, I have a Intune subscription to manage my mobile devices. So I can use the same Intune subscription here to manage both my on-prem and my Intune devices. Although, when I'm enrolling my device, and you will see this, if I punch in, Henrik at mdmhybrid.com, it doesn't know if it should enroll on-prem or if it should enroll in Intune. So what it will do is what I just told you. It will search for an Azure AD, and if it finds an Azure AD that actually supports what I'm about to do, then it's going to enroll me in there. So there are a couple of tricks we can use to make sure that it actually gets enrolled in the right place. So now I have my Intune subscription. I have my roles. I have everything configured in here in a HTTPS mode. If I go to Assets and Compliance, I have all corporate-owned devices. This is where I can go in and sign up for the Apple device enrollment program. I kind of mentioned that quickly yesterday. And this is also where I can go in and configure my Windows 10 enrollment profiles. So instead of me telling everybody how they're going to enroll, I'm just going to give them a package and then ask them, can you please right-click this package here? So my enrollment profile, let's do a NIC 2016. You can see here, in this one, I can select my management authority. So here I can say, well, what we're doing now is on premises. So we are not, going to do anything else. In my package, I'll assign a site. So if you don't have any management site code, there's something in your infrastructure, probably your client agent settings that you didn't configure. I'll show you that in a second. I'll be an intranet only, and this is my enrollment proxy point. So please go ahead and communicate with this box here. I want to make sure that you get a trusted certificate. You need to trust us. So I'll have the root CA here, the root certificate. I've exported that one, and I need to get that into the box. So if you're doing the enrollment manually, then you will have to first import the certificate. If you don't do that, the enrollment process will tell you. It will say, hey, sorry, the certificate is either expired or it doesn't exist. We don't trust your management authority there. I can also select a Wi-Fi profile. So I have a Wi-Fi profile here via Monstra. So it's going to create that and enroll that at the same time. If for those of you who didn't attend the session yesterday, and very easy way for us to see if I have it here. I think I had it in here. Let's see here. There you go. Very easy way for you to export your Wi-Fi profile and import it into SCCM is just to use a net shell, show the profiles, and then export the profile you want to export. So it's going to export it into an XML file. Once you have done that, so this one, you just create it on your own machine, and then you go ahead and export it. So you will get an XML file here. That XML file, you just copy that XML file to your server. And then in SCCM, if I go into my compliance settings, I have company resource access. And in here I have Wi-Fi profile. So when you create a Wi-Fi profile, give it a name, and then import the Wi-Fi profile from that XML file. That's it. So creating a Wi-Fi profile, if you have a pre-shared key and you have a Windows box, very, very easy. So that's what I've done here. Let's just get rid of that one. And that one. So there you go. So I did create my enrollment profile. The next thing I have to do is simply go ahead and export my profile. When I export my profile, I'll give it a folder name here, NIC, and a profile name. There you go. You can, if you wanna, and you probably wanna, because you have your certificate in here, encrypt the package and also say, hey, this package is only valid for a couple of days. It's not going to be valid forever, because forever is a long time. So I'm going to export this one here, and then I can just have my user run it, and when they run it, it's going to automatically enroll into my on-prem environment. If if I go into the machine, see, I should have another one here. So here I'm just going to join a domain. I'm going to give myself a name. I'm going to give myself a password. Yeah, so you are. Let me just see while that one there is setting up stuff for me. So this is another machine I have. Let me just see here. Yeah. So if we go into work access here, you'll actually see this one here. Let me just look at my information here. This one here I enrolled into to Azure. So I thought I had it enrolled into my MDM. And that's, did you see, I don't know if you noticed that, it said something about enforcing policies. That was the one I enrolled into Azure AD and my Intune, so it received the policies there. I really don't care about that. This won't take long. Cool. So while we're waiting for that one, setting up the MDM solution, there are a couple of things you really want to do. You want to make sure you go into Jerry's blog post here. He has a blog post, a step-by-step guide. I wrote a blog post together with a good friend of mine, Panu. It is on TP3, but it's still the same. It's still the same requirements. It's the same, more or less everything. So this blog post here, you should be able to take and then follow that step by step. I have it in here. There you go. Install and configure on-prem MDM with technical preview 3. So you have all the infrastructure requirements, all the certificate requirements, and so on and so forth, and especially the requirement around the cradle. If you have never set that up before, ask a good friend or follow the blog post here. And then you'll see, once we're all done, at the end, and this is what I'm waiting for, I'll go in and click connect. And once I click connect, I will just go ahead and join my my SCCM environment. And with a little luck, that one is ready now. Yeah, there you go. So what I could do right now is I could run the settings package. So if I have the settings package, I could just right-click that and enroll it. It would automatically install the certificate. It would automatically do all the stuff that I want to do. If I try, hello. There you go. What the? Let me just get my settings package over here first then, while we're waiting. So I just want to copy my settings package over. Just 2 seconds. So this is not domain joined or anything like that. So in here, I have my, there you go. So if I wanted to, I could just open this one here and run everything. Is this package from a source that you trust? Not at all, but I'll do it anyway. So what it will do now in the background, when I go into my accounts here, it's going to install the certificate, and you can see here that it actually enrolled me. So I have my Via Monstra. It's probably not completely done yet, but I can see here that it enrolled me into cmo1.corp.viamonstra.com. So that's one way of doing this. I can also remove it. If I remove it and connect, then I will have to punch in my email address. And this is where I'm saying if you punch in your email address and you have a cloud domain with the same, then it's actually going to enroll you in there. So you can cheat it. So I do not exist. Now I do hope that no one has a domain with this name. So right now it's going to search for that domain and it's going to say, hey, we don't know that domain name. So what I can do now is I can say, well, I am Henrik at MDM Hybrid and I want to enroll on cmo1.corp.viamonstra.com. When I do it manually, it's going to complain about the certificate, right? Because I didn't have the certificate. I had the certificate in the enrollment package, but when I unenrolled it again, it also removed those parts. So if I do it manually, I just have to import the cert into the trusted root, and we can do that. I should have the cert somewhere. Let's just get this one in here. Saving it on my desktop, I just don't like that. So you can see having an enrollment package so much easier compared to ask users to go in and enroll their certificate and so on and so forth. That will never happen in the real life. So there you go. Nope. So let's just go back a while. Connect. Punch in the fake address. It's not going to find anything. And then my enrollment point. This is also always the the interesting moment. There you go. Connecting to a service. Want to connect you to my System Center Configuration Manager service, and yep, I'm okay with that. Just go ahead and sign in. So right now it's going to do the enrollment and all of that. Skip that. Connecting, and well done. So you're now connected to your school, and in here you'll see it will initiate the sync. If you get an error, it can be 1,000 reasons why you get an error. In the blog post we did write in the most commonly seen errors, but one thing is like patience. Just wait a few minutes before the sync kicks in. Verify that your cradle is configured correctly. That is like maybe the number one reason why you don't see anything in there. So now I have my device enrolled. The other thing I probably want to do is I want to make sure that we control and configure stuff on the device. And this is where you want to learn about configuration items. So when you have configuration items, I can create a configuration item called Update Settings. This is going to be a configuration item for a device that do not have a config manager client. So I'm going to do a Windows 8 or Windows 10. Can run on all of these devices. Do I want to configure one of the commonly known ones, or do I want to create my own settings? And in here, this is where you can go in and create your own custom OMA URI settings, OMA DM settings. I've already configured a couple. So I go in and I create the setting. I give the setting a name. You could be as foolish as I and call it test. That's a bad name. Because you are at one point you are going to have a lot of these different settings. So what I typically would recommend, let me just do an integer here, is when you have your OMA URI string, and that's where you would have vendor, Microsoft, the area you're going to work with, and the setting. So you'll find all of that in the blog post. Let's see here. Make sure you have, I would just do the same name up there. I think someone died in the background there. So I have, for the update here, you'll see I have vendor, Microsoft policy, config, update, that's the area, and allow auto updates, that's the setting. So I would go in here, configure this, and then I would probably do something like this for my naming standard. So I have my update and allow auto update. So that would be the name. Click OK here, and then I look at my setting. So here's the setting that I just created. Select that one, and then I need to figure out, so what value do I want to configure? I selected the data type is an integer. The values are all documented on the website that I gave you. So you know, for automatically update, it will be 1, 0, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. So I'll just go ahead and configure the value. Remediate when not supported. Close that one. Next, next, and finish. It's going to take you a while, trust me, to create all of these CIs here. And management-wise, this is like playing around with your GPOs. There will always be new GPOs. There will always be new CIs that you are going to implement. What I have done is, and I have these here are public. I did post all of the Defender settings. So in one of the blog posts, I created all of the Defender settings for you. And you can just go in, import that cap file. Once those are imported, you will get not a ton, but you will get a lot of different CIs that you can start playing around with. And then you can just collect those, configure a baseline, and then add those CIs to that specific baseline, just like you have done in 2012. So now, if I look at my CIs here, you'll see I have all the Defender CIs. So the next thing I would do is create a baseline. Have my kiosk PCs or whatever we call them, and then just go in and add the different CIs that I wanna configure. Go ahead and deploy this one here, and this is one I deploy to my devices. So I would have a device collection. I don't deploy this one to users. I mean, it is a Defender setting, right? It's an automatic update setting, so we can't automatically update users yet. Those of you who saw the keynote yesterday, you know, a few years from now we might be able to do so. Okay, so that is my on-premise MDM in here, like really quick. Now, getting to Windows 10. If those of you who were in our pre-con Tuesday, or was it Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday. You saw that we created the Windows 10 upgrade task sequence, and we can upgrade the devices if the devices are in a good shape today, and if the devices already have the right language, the right architecture, and so on and so forth. So that is a new way of doing all of this. There are, just to sum it up very quickly, there are some pros and cons to do the in-place upgrade. It is by far the fastest way to get to Windows 10. I mean, if you have a Windows 7 box today and everything is perfect on that box except for the operating system, then by all means do an in-place upgrade. That's what I have done on mine. That's what a lot of my colleagues have done on theirs. That's what we're doing for a school right now. But there are some challenges because we can't use a custom image. That's fine. We'll just use, the Windows 10, the latest Windows 10 image we have. So that would be 15.11. But there might be some things, with disk encryption. There might be some things around languages. I haven't added all the items in here. There might be something around, architecture and so on and so forth. So before I start doing this, I need to know how many of my machines in the environment can actually be upgraded. We also had a question Wednesday about bias to UEFI and how we can visualize that. So that kind of prepared that. I think my answer at Wednesday was, if I do not get that prepared for Friday, I'll buy beers to everyone. I don't have to do that, and we don't want to drink beers 9 o'clock in the morning, not even if you're from Denmark, trust me. So let's take a look at this. There are a couple of challenges in here. So if I go into, and now I'm actually in my production environment. So there are a couple of challenges. First off, I want to figure out how many of my clients already are configured for UEFI, right? I want to figure out how many already are configured for BIOS, because we need to do something about that. There is this very, very smart guy, Mike Terrell, who is the user group leader down in Arizona. He has done a lot of that work for us. Let's just go in here. So if I go to his website, miketerrell.net, and I'll make sure all the links here are posted after. But you'll see Mike has a couple of blog posts where he say, how do I inventory HP BIOS information? And the reason why you want to do that is because you want to figure out if it's BIOS or if it's configured for UEFI. So he's going to go through all of this. What he's doing is he's giving us a MUFF file, and he's giving us a step-by-step guide to implement this in your own environment. If you have not played around with custom MUFF files before in SCCM, I do believe most of you have, but then you go to your client settings, your hardware inventory, your set classes, and then in here you can either you can connect to one of your HP machines into WMI on that HP machine and then say, I want to import that class. You can also do as we have done in here. You can say, well, we already have the MUFF file, so I downloaded the one from Mike's website. And I did not place it there. I placed it in my where did I place it? Not in the content library. Sorry. I'm on the wrong server. There you go. As I said, we are doing this in production. So if I go into my default client settings, my hardware inventory, set my classes, I can import. And then this is the MUFF file that Mike is going to give you. You can just download everything there. When you import this one, I've already done this because I've prepared this so I could collect some information from our environment. When I do this, you will get a secure boot class. So I have a class in here. Is secure boot enabled? Yes or no? So if 1, then it's enabled. If doesn't exist, then it's definitely not enabled. I also went in on my configuration MUFF file. So there are two steps in this one here. So I go to my client files.source. I have my configuration MUFF. And you'll see down here that you also need to go in and collect the registry key. So you just add this into the configuration MUFF file. It will automatically compile this stuff from WMI on the clients, add it into registry, and then we can come and grab that information. So now, how can we visualize that? Well, we could do it the old-fashioned way. You know, go into a query, create a query, secure boot, edit that query statement, and then in here, I should have, let's just start by selecting my net bias name in here. Oops. System resource. The name. That was not the net bias name, I know that. I should also in here, I should have a secure boot, and there you go. So I do have my secure boot class. I've already, you know, added this to inventory, and in here I have an attribute. So I have is UEFI secure boot enabled. Cool. Let's just, for the fun of it, only, you know, get our workstations in here. Operating system name or version. It's like workstation %. So now I have a now I have a query, and if I run my secure boot query, it should give me, you know, here you can see I have some devices who have secure boot enabled. I have some who do not have secure boot enabled. I have a lot of my devices who haven't collected inventory yet. So I'll go and present this to my manager, and my manager will say, wow, that's really visualization. And then she will walk away and make a note of me, and next time we have a meeting, she will say, probably need to do a better job, because she doesn't want to look in my console. Then I'll do a better job. So I will carry on looking at Mike's blog post. On Mike's, it's already open. On Mike's blog post, he have a Power BI file that you can download. And the cool thing about this one here, if you have not been playing around with Power BI, we have a couple of blog posts on how to get started. You want to do this, so you want to do this tomorrow. I don't care what other plans you have tomorrow. Power BI and Saturday, that's fun. But in here I have my operating systems, so I can click on my operating systems, and then I can see, okay, so for my Windows 10 machines, how many actually are still running legacy BIOS? On my Windows 8 machines, how many are running secure boot? See, this is visualization. This is, I mean, this is kind of cool. And my manager, she would understand this. I know she understands this. So having, you know, your secure boot information is one thing. Creating a query in Config Manager, kind of yesterday's news, you know. Make sure you get into Power BI. This is all in the blog post that Mike gave us, and he also have a reference to some other blog posts where you will, you know, get started with Power BI. Okay, so now I know the situation in my UEFI and my BIOS. The next thing I want to know is, so if I start upgrading all of my machines, will they fail or will they actually succeed? How can we figure out if they fail or if they will succeed? Well, it's easy. If they have Windows 10 the day after, they succeeded. If they are still on Windows 7, probably failed. If I look at an existing machine, so I did upgrade a machine, you know, a couple of days ago. If I go into my Windows folder here and go into the Panda folder, then in the Panda folder, you'll see I have some XML documents in here. So as part of the upgrading process, it's actually going to figure out if I'm compatible. Can we do the upgrade? Now, what if we could simulate the upgrade and then grab this information, place the information into a database, so we could simulate the upgrade next weekend, use Wake on LAN, power all the machines up, and then, you know, just spend the week figuring out who can actually upgrade or not. that can be done. If I look in my, again, I'll go to my production environment. I have a task sequence here, and this is a standard Windows 10 upgrade task sequence, almost. If I edit this one, you'll see it's going to check for readiness, are you a client, all of that. Then it's going to upgrade the operating system. Not really, because we are only performing the compatibility scan. So we're not doing anything. We're still running the task sequence on your box, but we're not doing anything. That's fine. It's going to generate the files. The next step we're going to perform here is we have a custom PowerShell script. So I have a package, a PowerShell script here, and this PowerShell script is going to collect all the XML files, all the files that I need from the Panda folder, and upload them. So I'm uploading the files here to a repository. That repository is nothing but a share in here. So I am uploading the files to a share that I call compatibility information. Try and say that fast, not that easy. So these are machines where we actually ran this. And if I go in and take a look at one of the machines, you'll see in here that we have the XML files. So if I right-click one of these XML files, these, let's just do it with IE, these will just, contain the steps that Windows 10 is, going through. And then it will say, this one is good, oh, this one is a blocker. And it's all the blockers that I want to know about. So the next thing we'll do is, once we have the information here, then we have a little PowerShell script. And this little PowerShell script here will take the files, connect to our local SQL database. In here, our local SQL server. In here, we have a database that's a custom database. We're not messing around with the SCCM database. So we have a database called compatibility. And in here, we're just going to import the CSV information. So I don't know if you noticed that, but for all of the machines we have in here, we will also have a CSV file. So the CSV file, this is where we go, and grab the information from the different XML files and say, did you pass this test, and so on and so forth. The end result looks like this. So I have my compatibility database. There you go. Just an empty, just plain database almost. And I have my upgrade status. So that's the only table we have. And then I have all of my machines here, and I can see all the different checks. Did we run into any issues? Yes or no? If I scroll over here to the right, let's think on some of these machines here. We had some, there you go. We had some interesting issues. You can see here on the language pack detected. So if we get any issues in here, they will be here. They will be listed. So what we haven't done yet, but that would be fairly easy for you to do, is take this information you have in the database, export it to an Excel file, create a nice chart, do some Power BI, visualize it. Because of course, we won't be able to present this to management. But this is kind of very, very useful information. So with a standard task sequence, just one thing around the task sequence in here. If I go in and edit it again. When I upgrade my operating system, just make sure that it continues on error. Otherwise, it won't go down and run the PowerShell script, and it won't collect the information. This is kind of neat, because I have not seen this anywhere before. I just know that this is really something we need in all Windows 10 upgrade projects. Any questions so far? Very quiet. Is it neat? We We haven't posted this one yet. We will very soon, as in maybe next week or something like that. Part of the code is like what we would call quick and dirty, because we're testing this right now. The data you saw in there are real data collected from a university that we are currently upgrading or migrating. And the funny thing about working with developers is like, they go, hey, we need to do this. And then the developers thinks, there's no way on earth I'm going to collect this information manually. I mean, I'm way too lazy to do that. And then after 5-10 minutes of meetings and discussions and so on, then you have a quick and dirty PowerShell script. And then once you have the PowerShell script, you can go in and you can customize your task sequence, and then boom, all of a sudden you have a solution. We will never ever recommend that you go in and customize the SCCM database, not with additional tables. I wouldn't do that. Although the support statement now has changed, so you can go into the database and you can make changes in there, and you will still be supported. Although if you change something that has an impact on a feature, you'll still be supported on the other features. Do I recommend you doing that? Not really. But there are scenarios where you have to go in and do all of this. A couple of scenarios. Windows 10 servicing. We still have 5 more minutes left. So this is how I usually define patch management. Now we have, besides normal Windows patches, we also have the OS upgrades. The OS upgrades are kind of interesting because normally when we plan for software updates, we define the update processes and all of that, but the upgrade does not fit into that. I mean, I cannot have a pilot group where I normally test my Windows 10 updates and then also say, hey, I'm going to test my upgrades on those as well. That doesn't work like that. The deployment strategy that we need to build into our environment has to kind of match what Microsoft is doing, in my opinion. So you have probably seen this before. We have the internal validation program, the insider program. We have current branch, and then we have current branch for business. And once it's released for current branch and current branch for business, then it will show up in Windows Update, and you can start doing a ton of stuff in here. The Windows servicing, let me just go into my environment here. The Windows servicing feature in 15.11 is giving you a dashboard. So in here I can see how many different versions do I have. I have a couple on 15.07. I have the majority on 15.11, which is the current build. I can see the different rings that I have, so how many are release ready and business ready and so on. And then I can go down and create a business plan, or servicing plan, sorry. So I can say, in my environment, when a new upgrade, is ready, I have defined a couple of rings, and a ring is just a collection. Go in here and specify my target collection. So in my updates deployment, I have ring 2. And that's where I have the majority. And now I have to figure out what deployment ring. Hello. This is we have 2 more minutes. I timed it to, kill the network connection when we were 60 minutes. Okay, so while that one is reconnecting, hopefully, what happens, for those of you who have been creating this servicing plan here, what happens when you go in and run that one right now? Do you know that? It has no filter. So what it will do is it will say, we have 256 upgrades available, and we're going to download all of them. They're like 2.5 gigabytes in size each, and you have a remote distribution point in Bergen, one in Trondheim, maybe one in Stockholm. And now you're going to send out 256 gigabytes times 2.5. That's a lot of data, right? So you don't want to do that. What you want to do instead is, you have a couple of options. If I go into my WSUS server, I'll just quickly show you this. In my WSUS server, I can go in and decline all the upgrades that I do not need. That's one way of doing this. So would I recommend this? Maybe. I mean, if you know you're only using the English Enterprise edition, then yeah, that would be good. So if I go into my Windows Update Services, I'll be done in just like 30 seconds here. Just go ahead, find your upgrade category, decline all of them, except the one that you really need. This is my timer saying I have 1 minute left. Because when you create your servicing plans, then it's only going to download, you know, the non-declined updates. So while we're just waiting for that snap-in to load, another another method, and that's the method that I kind of use myself, is I just go into my software upgrades, I find the upgrade that I want, and then I download that and place it in a software update group, because the upgrade is just an update object. So go into your software library, go into your software updates, find your software update that you want to play around with, the upgrade itself, and then you just place that into a software update group and treat it as a traditional software update deployment. That's another way of doing this. I don't want you to hang around and look for my snap-in to load. So that was a very, very quick demo on that. It's 10 o'clock. Trust me, I could carry on for another hour. I won't do that because you have other plans. If you have any questions about some of the software upgrades and all of that stuff, then I will be down by our booth for the rest of the remaining of the day in here. Thanks for showing up. Have a great rest of the day.